Hello everybody, this is the Retro Bear back once again with some more cartoon collection videos for you. We have hit episode 5 and the final part for me anyway of the Hanna-Barbera stuff that I've got to show you and talk about. And then there'll be one final video where I incorporate everything else I can think of that I've got. It'll be more modern stuff, but there might be the odd bit I've missed. So that's to come. I know that will contain animation and some puppetry and some stop motion as well, because I found something I haven't shown you from the previous video. But anyway, we'll go back to Hanna-Barbera for this final part. And if you haven't seen my previous 2 videos on Hanna-Barbera, we've talked about the early 1960s, we've talked about the late 1960s, and the Wacky Races, Pit Stop, Dastardly and Muttley spin-offs. And we're now going to focus on, sadly, a period where you can look back and be very critical of this period now. At the time, I don't know whether people were critical, but it's very easy now to look back and think, were they really short of ideas? Were things really bad at this point that they just hadn't got a clue what to do? So they either recycled the older stuff, or they just took the same premise that worked and carried on. And we'll explain how that process works, what starts that off. We'll talk about some of that as well. We'll also talk about a complete left field thing, and also how to cash in a very popular phenomenon. So 4 DVDs to show you in this. The other interesting thing about the fact that I've got these 4 DVDs here is I have practically bought these in the last month, and again it's like little obsessions I get. It's the much to the dismay of Mrs. Bear, who has to put up with these little obsessions I get at times, where I just get focused on something and I think, you know what, I'm going to go and buy that and buy that and buy that and buy that and bring all those in, and all of a sudden I have now. Yeah, and then I start looking for stuff beyond that, which is, we're very lucky here in the UK that I can't do that. If I was in America, I'd be buying all sorts of fronts, left, right and centre. I would probably go down, I've mentioned Region 1 DVD on this, I probably would have gone down that route a few years back, but I'm not going to. So what we're showing here is basically Region 2 stuff, which you can only buy here for the UK players. And there's an awful lot of Region 1 stuff I just won't go down that hole. We're not going down that hole. So, Hanna-Barbera in the late 1960s. We've already discussed, I said, Wacky Races, Pit Stop and Dastardly and Muttley. Go and look at the last video, which should be in the link in the description below with the other ones. If it's not, then it'll be in the archives in my channel. So we get to the late 1960s, and then everything starts to get a bit weird. Is it the psychedelic period that caused this strangeness to come about? Possibly so. Because the next program, next DVD I'm going to show you for a program that I again remember wildly, is probably about as mad as you can get and completely bonkers, but it fits the period so well. And again, surprisingly, I thought this program was consistently on television when I was a kid, but it wasn't. And this is it. Now, for those of you who might be interested in this, watching this here in the UK, you can actually probably access this from abroad, I suppose. It might not be the sort of thing you want to do, but there's a website called the BBC Genome Project. Now, Genome spelled Genome. I will put a link in the description below. And this was started a number of years ago, because I was very involved in it to start with. I'd say involved, I sort of volunteered to test it. And I tested it for a few weeks for them, very briefly, and then dropped out of it. And the idea of the Genome Project was to archive program listings and information about programs from the publication that we used to have here called the Radio Times, which was a weekly TV listings magazine. In America, I think you have TV Guide, something like that. We had Radio Times, which was the BBC stations, and then we had ITV or TV Times for the independent channels. Does the Radio Times still exist in some form now? But I'm not sure it's particularly widely read, because you can get all the TV listings online anyway. The idea of the Genome was to compile listings from the Radio Times and people remember information about shows and just build this mass database of it. You can go into it now and you can type in any show you want and get information about it, or when it was broadcast. Now, I did a bit of research about this programme, finding out it was last broadcast. I thought, well, it might be interesting just to mention how long it actually ran for. Now, when it was first shown over here, it was shown not long after it got premiered in America. We're talking 1970. But the last known showing on the BBC, who had the rights to this programme, 1986. And I thought, hang on, I'd have been 11 at the time when they stopped showing that. I'd been on there longer after that. Now, It may have been shown years later on Cartoon Network. I know Cartoon Network did bring it on there. But there seems to be like a 10-year period where the programme just didn't exist. And again, with this renaissance of children's television programming that we had in the UK in the 1990s, people remembering old TV shows. This is one that always gets churned out, particularly the theme tune, because everybody remembers the theme tune to this programme. Whether you remember about the programme or not, you all remember the theme tune. This was a programme which existed in an hour-long format. Very unusual. It never got broadcast in an hour-long format on the BBC. I don't think it ever got broadcast in an hour-long format on Cartoon Network either. I think it was a 30-minute version. So I don't think we ever got the full episodes over here in the UK. There was always skits interspersed with a couple of animated cartoons and actual live-action TVs. Because one thing Hanna-Barbera branched into briefly was live-action episodes, adventure episodes. There was Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Was it Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn? There was something like that. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. We had live-action parts in it. There's also this one, was part of this as well, I'm going to show you. I am talking about The Banana Splits and Friends. Now this, as you will see, is still sealed. I bought this off Amazon a few weeks back. Cost me $10.99. I think it's about the going rate for it. I don't think it's, you might get it cheaper, slightly cheaper on eBay. There's loads of video cassettes. The amount of VHS for the Banana Splits that exists here in the UK is ridiculous. But because the length of episodes, I think there's one video cassette which has actually got 3 full-length episodes on it, and there's a lot of other ones which have just got compilations of bits and pieces out of them. This, I am reliably informed, is the complete season 1. Now, I doubt it is the complete season 1 because it would run an awful lot longer. Let me just tell you, the Banana Splits, as you can see on the front cover, were a band. They were 4 gentlemen dressed in suits. They were voiced by other actors. Paul Winfield, I think, was one of them. If you remember the guy who did, remember the voice of Tigger? You remember the voice of Tigger, yeah. Also the voice of Fleagle, the leader of the Banana Splits. We got Drooper. We got Fleagle, Beagle and Snork. Snork on the old keyboards there. Didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. He was the Harpo Marx of the group. The animated series, which you can see there, Arabian Nights, Size of an Eagle, I think was one of the things there. You've got the 3 Musketeers, and you've also got the live-action Danger Island show. Interesting fact, most people remember this, but I'm not sure whether all of the episodes or some of those episodes were directed by none other than Richard Donner, who went on to direct Superman and many other films. So there we go, and this is it. It's psychedelic. 4 rock musicians named Fleagle, Bingo, Drooper and Snork, not Beagle, Bingo. Sorry, Fleagle, Bingo. Play their instruments, tell jokes and slapstick the day away, splitting up the splits, video antics and 2 cartoons and a live-action series full of action adventure. So yeah, there used to be sequences where they would go. You used to have these little buggies they used to drive around, little cars, and they go to various, like, drive around that, and there'd be a musical interlude of some music playing in the background while they go to some antics and really bad sketches and what have you. Now it does say on here the official running time is just under 750 minutes. Now that, to my calculations, about 12 hours. Now I know that they made over 30 episodes of this, and the first series I think was 17 episodes. I personally, until I watch it, I can't actually tell you. But I'm not sure whether this is the complete series or not, or whether we are getting here the 30-minute variations of the entire series, because it says complete season 1, and there were 2 series, so we never got season 2 over it. We never got season 2 released. Only season 1 on DVD. I don't know. It could be an interesting watch, that one, if I decide to unseal it. But this just captures that psychedelic feeling of the late 1960s. And that, it just gives me a feeling of like summer holidays, because usually this would be on during the summer holidays. Again, not as much as I thought it was. If you look at the Genome Project website, not as much as I thought it was going to be. But yeah, and I'm not sure what audience would have made at this at the time. They may have been having Banana Splits laced with something, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what British audiences would have made this when it came over in 1970 either. I don't know. But yeah, there we go. So the Banana Splits, complete series 1, available I'm not promoting the video, but you can get it relatively easily. A friend of mine got it at work, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, we got this," and I said, "Oh, that's quite hard to get hold of now. I can't get that any. You can't. It's difficult to find in shops. I can't find it in shops, but you go to Amazon or somewhere like that, you can get it quite easily." And I was quite surprised how cheap it was. But there we go. So the banana splits, which didn't really lead to anything else. 2 series of, and that was it. Yeah, we come on to a series which most people will know instantly before I even mention it. The big series at Hanna-Barbera, probably the one that they get recognised for more than anything else. And it's about 4 teenagers and their dog solving mysteries, driving around the country in their wagon, solving mysteries, usually turning out to be some person in a latex mask that they happen to be right at the very beginning, and then spend the next 15 minutes working out, or ending up finding out it's actually the first person they spoke to who's causing all these things. Monsters, strange goings-ons, ghosts, you name it, whatever. This is where we're at. And we are talking about none other than the Juggernaut, which is Scooby Doo. Where are you? Now, I'm not going to give you a history of Scooby Doo, how it started, how they got to the point where they created a TV series about a dog and everything. All I'm going to tell you is that when it was first mooted, it was called, I think it was called Guess Who, and it was incredibly dark and much more scary than it turned out. In fact, they were told to go away and come up with a completely different idea. Scooby Doo was part of the series, that original series at the time, but very much a reduced character. What they did was basically take Scooby Doo away, make him more cartoon orientated, pair him up with Shaggy. It's a sort of a double act, and the humour from that would come into it. So you've got the mystery and suspense on one end, and you've got the humour. The humour was not in the original premise that they came up with, so that's what they had to do. You've got Daphne, who's basically Penelope Pitstop with orange hair, always getting into trouble. Although very interestingly enough, later on in the 80s with the newer Scooby-Doo stuff, they actually made Daphne a bit more, I'd say, harder, a bit less pathetic. a bit less damsel in distress. They made her far more. That's what damsel in distress. Made her far more savvy, I think it was. Fred, who was technically the leader of the group, who always used to go off with Daphne. Actually, we'll split up. Scooby and Shaggy, you go that way. Velma, you go that way. Or Scooby, Shaggy, and Velma, you go that way. And me and Daphne will go this way. It was never Daphne and Velma, you go off in that direction. Oh no. Whether he's trying to keep them apart or not, I don't know. But yeah. You'd have to, it has to be Clouseau to work that one out. There was something going on there. Or you'd like to think there was something going on there. And then you've got Shaggy, we mentioned there, which is Scooby's best friend. Same interesting food. Voiced by Casey Kasem, who was the long-standing American radio disc jockey. And Frank Welker does the voice for Fred. He still does the voice for Fred now. Can you believe that? I think he's the only one in the original cast who's still alive and doing the vocals on it. And you got Velma, who always lost her glasses. The glasses, yeah, oh no, where have my glasses gone? Much hilarity ensued. This is the first series. You said first and second series, like 25 episodes of this are on here. And there we go. And you can see this one is still also, is it still sealed now? I have opened this one up. Yes, very lazy. I'll talk about that in a second. But this is the first 2 series. This was massively successful for Hanna-Barbera. Unbeknownst to, there is an American release which says there's a 3rd series of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? There isn't a 3rd series. This was the first series that ran on CBS, which ran for 2 seasons and then was repeated over and over for the next 5 years, I think it was. And then, as I may have mentioned in the previous episode, not this one, Scooby Doo and Hanna-Barbera moved Lock, Stock and Barrel to ABC. And there was a new series of Scooby Doo produced for it called The Scooby Doo Show, funnily enough, in 1976. And then they ended up rerunning old episodes of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? On that. So there is an American DVD which says 3rd series. It's not. He's actually, I think it's 15 episodes of The Scooby Doo Show of the 50 odd they made. So interesting enough. But again, that's Region 1 DVD. We won't get over here. Yeah, 25. And I'm not even sure what extras are on there. There may be some. But what I don't like about this is the horrible release. You've got discs 2 and 3 there. Very nicely done. But, and this is a case with some of these Hanna-Barbera releases, that's disc 1, and you can't see disc 4 at the back. They're plain discs, there's no cover on them. So I'm not sure whether those are double-sided ones. We have to flip them over halfway through. Because when I first got DVD, one of the first DVDs I got was Lethal Weapon 4, which was a flipper. Now again, halfway through, the film would stop. You have to take the DVD out, turn it over, and put it back in again, and it would pick up the second half of the film. Mad. And again, I remember that one had no cover on it, which was strange because at the time CDs were being produced with a design on the CD itself, so there's no reason for that. But a lot of these Hanna-Barbera releases I've got are like that. Very, very lazy, very, very poor. That really, to me, just makes that set look, not very good. I nearly said it then, but it does. I'm just disappointment on my face when I opened it. I thought, God, that's terrible. Why do they not do something like that? Anyway. So that was it. So Scooby Doo's ran consistently on television for so many years in different occasions. That's the original series, and to me the original is still the best. It's got the theme tune. You will note, those of you who've got an ear for these sort of things, that the theme tune to series 1 and series 2 are slightly different. Oh, they are. Trust me on that one, they are. The classic Scooby Doo Where Are You theme tune. But yeah, so again, that is, what did I get? I got $6.99 I paid for that. Now, I'd shop around because there are people selling this for a lot more than $6.99. I got that from Amazon for $6.99, postage included, because I'm a Prime member. That's nothing for that. As soon as I saw a copy on eBay, I thought, I'm not paying that for it. Then went on Amazon, I thought, and it was new. It was brand new. That was actually sealed. I'd taken the wrapping off, that was actually sealed. But yes, dropped my microphone, sorry. Well, on about Scooby Doo, Scooby Doo just carried on. Now I said there was no Scooby Doo episodes for 5 years. No, that was incorrect. There was new Scooby Doo episodes. What they did was they came up with the idea of extending the format. So go from a 20-minute episode to a 45-minute episode. And to bring in a series of guest stars every episode. Now the guest stars were either people who were playing themselves, so they had the original voice actors doing them, or they were fictional characters or people who were no longer alive. So for example, you would have had at the time a Scooby-Doo Mysteries with Dick Van Dyke, who was the chimney sweep in Mary Poppins, most people remember. You would then have an episode, say for example, with Batman, who is a fictional character and doesn't exist. And then you would have an episode with Laurel and Hardy, who by that point had been dead for probably around about, I think Stan Laurel had been dead for about 10 years and Oliver Hardy at least 15 years before that. And that was it. And I came to see called of feature-length Scooby-Doo series called the all-new, which is always a bad sign, Scooby-Doo movies. Now this is the best of the new Scooby-Doo movies. Again, it's still sealed. I haven't opened it yet. There's not a lot in there. And that was it. Now, anything, we'll get to this in a second, anything with the word new in the title, ignore it, because it's not going to be as good or improved or better. It's just someone's pulled their finger out and decided to make some new ones after so many years. There were, I think, 20-something episodes made of this. You can buy a Blu-ray and a DVD of the entire series of these, with the exception of one episode, because one of the episodes features the Addams Family, which Hanna-Barbera had the rights to in the 1970s because they did make an animated series. I know there was one in the 80s as well, but they did have one in the 1970s, and they had the rights to that. Well, lo and behold, the rights are reverted back to the estate of the Addams creator, and as a result they won't let them use it. So the only episode missing off that entire collection, it actually says the almost complete series. That one at the moment is still unavailable. You can't get it anywhere. And when this came out initially on video here in the UK, there was also issues with the estates of Laurel and Hardy. I think it was Sonny and Cher. There's an episode featuring Sonny and Cher. They held back the rights as well on their episodes. So there's a DVD which came out with, a video that came out with what they could put out not the episodes they wanted to put out because there was issue with people's likenesses. So what you've got on here, you've got 4 episodes, and this one, as I said, you can get the complete series for 15 quid, and you can get that in the shops as well. I've seen it in HMV, so you can get it in there. This one, you can get it for about 3 quid. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. There's 4 episodes on here. The reason I've not gone for the whole series is because I don't really remember these, and the ones I have seen of them I'm not particularly interested in. I want to watch Scooby Doo Solve Mysteries, not interact with people who are dead or well-known people like people I'm going to mention on here. They have done an update called Scooby Doo and Guess Who, where they've done a similar thing with recently in the last 10 years with Scooby Doo and a guest star. All people like Axl Rose is a guest star. There's a singer as well, I can't remember her name. Beginning with S, well-known singer. Dance music singer. Syrah, something like that, I can't remember. Somebody will know what it is. I've not seen any of those. I'm not sure if they're any good or not, I don't know. But yes, they've sort of updated them with newer personalities. Again, something I don't recognise. I think the only person who makes an appearance in the first series and the second series using the original voice is Sandy Duncan, who most UK viewers will not know who is. To be honest with you, I don't know who she is. But anyway, she's a singer, I think. So you've got 4 episodes on this. It's meant to be volume 1, then there was volume 2, that's all there was. So we got episodes Ghostly Town with special guest The Three Stooges. The Dynamic Scooby Doo Affair with special guest Batman and Robin. The Frickat Fracas with special guest Jonathan Winters. I know Jonathan Winters is, a lot of people probably won't. And then Guess Who's Not Coming to Dinner with special guest Don Knotts. Again, I know Don Knotts is, a lot of people probably won't. So it's not exactly selling you a massive amount on there. It also says they're not for rental or resale, which is really interesting. I managed to buy this brand new from our good friends at Amazon. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, you can pick it up for next month. And like I said, if you want the entire series, pick them up as well. They got rerun on Cartoon Network, etc. But that was not what I wanted to get involved with. Now, before I move on to the one last series I want to talk about, which is completely different from this, I want to talk a little bit about Scooby Doo, because in a way, the success of Scooby Doo really did hamper Hanna-Barbera for me, their output over the next 10 years. The reason I say that is because you've got teens and a comedy animal solving mysteries, which is great. But it seemed that every single premise after that needed to involve a group of teenagers with a comedy animal solving mysteries. You had Josie and the Pussycats, which I don't think was Hanna-Barbera's intellectual rights anyway. It wasn't, but it was a similar thing. There was a band and some band members and a cat playing in a band and solving. Yeah. The 3 things that you're going to get here about very, very, very shortly are teenagers who are solving mysteries with a comedy animal, or teenagers who are in a band and solving mysteries with a comedy animal, or teenagers who don't solve mysteries that play in a band and have a comedy animal. It just gets so lazy, everything about it. You have Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids, which is about a band solving mysteries. You have The Amazing Chan and the Chan Clan, based on the Charlie Chan character, of a load of teenagers who play in a band and solving mysteries. Okay, you move away from that. You have Goober and the Ghost Chasers, which is about a ghostly dog and some teenagers solving mysteries. You have Clue Club, about some comedy dogs and teenagers solving mysteries. You have, it just gets on and on and on and on. There was at the format Captain Caveman and the Teenagers, yes. It's a load of teenagers and a caveman solving mysteries. The only thing missing is they don't play in a band. It's Jabberjaw, set in a futuristic world under the sea, about a lot of teenagers who solve mysteries who play in a band with a comedy shark. It's just mind-blowing. Everything from that era has to be done the same. If it's not done that, they get an obsession with, they get the rights to the DC superheroes. They make a series of cartoons based around the Super Friends, and they get them utterly wrong. The first series of Super Friends that came out was horrible. Even Hanna-Barbera said it was an absolute mistake. They'll get everything wrong with it, and they tried for the rest of the decade to bring that back into line to do it. But they get an obsession with superheroes. So you now have the robotic Three Stooges. Who asked for that? Who asked for the Three Stooges to be made of robots and given a cartoon series? Who asked for the Harlem Globetrotters to be given a cartoon series? Yes, the Harlem Globetrotters, who were given a comedy dog as a sidekick, and then eventually they were turned into superheroes. I just do not understand it. So the entire output for the 1970s for Hanna-Barbera focuses on ghosts, mysteries, comedy animals, bands, teenagers, superheroes. That is it. That is, for me, the entire output of the 1970s. And when they try and do something, get back to doing comedy animals with undercover element and Hey It's the King at the end of the 70s into the early 1980s, and the Quickie Koala show, the boat's gone. Sorry, you've annoyed us. They take Scooby Doo and put Scooby Doo through the sausage machine. Not literally, that would be horrible, but like they did with I mentioned the Flintstones. They took the Flintstones and resurrected the Flintstones 4 or 5 times in the 1970s, different formats that kept swinging and missing each time. They took Scooby Doo after 1976, gave him Scrappy Doo. Everyone remembers Scrappy Doo, I hate Scrappy Doo. Then they got rid of Fred, Velma and Daphne at the start of the 1980s and just focused everything on Scooby, Scrappy and Scooby Doo. And that didn't work. Then they brought Daphne back, which didn't work. Then they brought a character, an Asian character in as well, which the 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo, which wasn't too bad. We've got Vincent Price, the famous horror actor, and playing himself in the series. Well, not himself, he's playing a different character, but it was Vincent Price doing it. And then they ended the 1980s, again, Hanna-Barbera obsessions, kids programs. They made Tom and Jerry Kids, the Flintstone Kids, a pup named Scooby Doo. They just took their main characters and made them younger to try and get some more mileage out of it. And where we are now with how Scooby Doo's, we've had What's New Scooby Doo, Be Cool Scooby Doo, which is slightly different. We mentioned Scooby Doo and Guess Who, Mystery Incorporated, which is incredibly dark. If you've never seen Mystery Incorporated, it really is completely different in terms of Scooby Doo stuff. They just took the Scooby Doo franchise and ran it into the ground as much as they possibly could do, and we have all these straight-to-video Scooby Doo films, which some people say they're okay, but if you're running all that stuff into the ground, it's just ridiculous. The Flintstones got made into a film or a series of films which weren't very good. The Jetsons got an animated cartoon, which wasn't animated feelings film, which wasn't very good. Scooby Doo got 2 live-action films. The first one missed the mark incredibly by simply trying to be funny and poke fun at itself by saying, "Oh yes, look us being irrelevant," and trying to be clever and take everything that people have taken the mick out of Scooby Doo for 20 years and make a film out of it. And yeah, everyone hates Scrappy Doo. So what? Why base the entire film on that sort of ridiculous premise? Terrible film. The second film, Monster Unleashed, is much better because it stays focused to more Scooby Doo centric characters, because they bring back some of the ghosts from the old series. But it's not great, but it's better than the Flintstones. There's games on Scooby Doo, computer games on Scooby Doo, which again, a couple of them work out really well, some of them are not very good. The Flintstones games, I think that is a good Flintstones. There's not a good Flintstones game for the for computers. The Wacky Races game, I think Crash and Burn on the Wii is probably the best one. Some of the other ones don't hit the mark. It's terrible, it really is. So yeah, I was sorry, I went off a bit of a tangent there, but there's so many things that you just felt during this period. We look back on that period, those cartoons, the ones I grew up with, and it pains me to sit here slagging them off, but it's only when I've been sort of going through this research, looking into stuff and trying to find out how things work and where things came from and the history behind things, that I realised just how lazy this output is. And I got this by watching a series of videos. Somebody's put up a video of every single introduction to a Hanna-Barbera cartoon from the very first one, Rough and Ready, right up until the late 1990s. And when you run through the 1970s, you realise that everything is based around detective, mystery, thriller, teens, bands, comedy sidekicks. Ugh. Not good. And then there's the cashing in on fads, which is the last one I'm going to show you, and this was a fad. Massive fad with the 1970s. Kung Fu. So we got Hong Kong Phooey, which is based around a canine crime-fighting kung fu dog and his cat sidekick, who inevitably is the one who does all the work and solves all the mysteries. 31 episodes on 2 discs. My goodness me. Now, I was never a fan of Hong Kong Phooey at all. When you look at the animation and the way it was drawn, it looks a bit modern and a bit bare in places, and it does because it was cheaply made, there's no doubt about it. Yes, it's got that great theme tune which people like. It's also got the voice of Scatman Carruthers doing Hong Kong Phooey, which is a perfect fit, because I think if you try to do any other voice on that one, it just would not be right. We've got in here 340 minutes. So not a particularly long video, DVD, sorry, and that's it. There's any extras on this one, maybe. There may be some extras somewhere. I can't know. You can get this in a 2 volume, buy volume 1 and volume 2, whatever. But this was the one I was missing from my collection, so I thought, well, I'll pick it up. Again, dirt cheap, a few quid. You're not going to pay. There's so many of these knocking them out. They are not hard to pick up. If you have enjoyed that series, and you know, memories of that one, pick up maybe 1 volume or something like that, and you'll realise after about 3 or 4 episodes, you go, oh, do you know what? Not quite as good as I remember. 340 minutes, 31 episodes. So there must have been 2 episodes per half an hour, I'm guessing. The 31 episodes, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I don't know on that one. But again, I think we only got 1 episode per show. If you saw Hong Kong through the TV listings, it's going to be 1 episode. That was it. But yeah, he just cashed in on the kung fu phase of the phase in the 1970s. Everyone remembers it. Remember the cool car he used to do, a helicopter and all sorts of different items. That's worth picking up. But there's nothing there. It's basically a dog taking the place of the teenagers solving mysteries with a comedy sidekick. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on Hong Kong. I don't know, but it's yeah, I remember it. It was all over the telly when I was a kid. It was all over comics and annuals, everything like that. But not one I remember fondly. So I don't want to finish that off and say I've ranted against Hanna-Barbera, because it was a massive part of my childhood, and that name Hanna-Barbera just brings back so many great memories. But when you look back, when you get older and you get a bit more critical about things, and you look at it and you go, do you know what? Maybe it wasn't all that good. Maybe there were some good series in the 70s which got overshadowed by the sausage machine output. Here's another one. Okay, here's 2 dogs solving the mystery with some teenagers. Yeah, I don't know whether they sort of moved away from what worked for them well, and ended up going down a rabbit hole and just churning out the same old stuff, because that, I don't know, maybe the pressure from the network, we want more shows like this. Okay, well, we'll give you more shows like that. If that's what they were doing, then fair enough. You can only do what you're asked. We want more shows like this. Okay, I'll give you some more shows like this. But it overshadows everything else. It just seems a very lazy way of doing it. It's almost, if this is the format that's going to work, we're going to keep with it, we're going to stick with it, and then until everybody tells us differently, we ain't going to stop. And that's what I think happened. Very sad, very sad. But they recover. 1980s, they end up again falling down that route. They get the rights to the Smurf, they make Smurf cartoons. Everyone buys into the Smurfs. Smurfs are a massive worldwide success. God knows why, but they are. And then they get in the habit of making very, very similar series like The Biscuits, which is a series of small dogs, about a series of small dogs living in a castle, which is exactly the same as the Smurfs live in a village, in a wood, and they're being chased by this evil magician type person. The Biscuits are a series of small dogs who live in a castle who are chased by a king who wants his treasure back. It's exactly the same. And a couple like that as well. And that worked, and then that all got old hat all of a sudden. And they had to change their way. And they do. They come up with this great idea in the 1990s with the launch of Cartoon Network, and they get to ask up-and-coming film directors to produce a new series of cartoon characters. So from that series, we get juggernauts like Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Ed and Eddie, Cow and Chicken, Courage the Cowardly Dog, the Powerpuff Girls. Just 5 to mention, just from that series of pilots, 5 brand new series. 2 Stupid Dogs. I love 2 Stupid Dogs. It is stupid, but I love it. One of my favourites. So it can, they got out of that slump and they started churning out new content again. Not themselves directly, the studio. And it sort of did it. But then they fall back into doing 20 years of Scooby Doo. Oh, Scooby Doo works. People like Scooby Doo. They like Scooby Doo. We'll do 25 more of those over the next 20 years. And it seems to be a new Scooby Doo DVD release every 6 months. It's just relentless. Hopefully now, with Warner Brothers owning the library, they will see there are other intellectual rights in there that are prime for being brought back and resurrected. We've seen with Jellystone to an extent. They've tried to do that. I think it's worked. Some people think it's worked. Some people think it hasn't worked. And just taking that premise and trying to do something, take that intellectual right and do something with different. Don't keep using Scooby Doo all the time. People are fed up with Scooby Doo. Do something different. And that's why Scooby Doo is not in Jellystone. That's why the Flintstones are just appear as characters. They aren't used at all. They're done. That's it. They try and focus on everybody else. You know, bringing back Yogi, but Yogi was a massive success for them in the 60s and 70s. And they did try and resurrect Yogi in the 70s and the 80s, but by the time they got to the 90s, they stopped. That was it. They didn't bother again. Maybe we'll see something different, I don't know. But I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too critical, too much of a rant, but very, very passionate about that. I've got one more to do on this series, one more cartoon collection video to come, and that'll be anything else I haven't included in any of these, which isn't specific to what I'm talking about. So there might be stuff I've missed out, and there might be stuff that I haven't talked about yet. Anyway, in the meantime, if you have liked this, please, please, please do leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel before, this hopefully will be indicative of some stuff I'll be doing going forward. It'd be nice to do that. And if you have liked it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And tick that bell as well, because if you tick the bell, that tells you when I'm putting a new video out. And if you give me a thumbs up, that helps YouTube with their analytics and all that, and it will give you more videos like this. And it will help them tell you what's good and what's not good. In the meantime, this is the Retro Bear saying thank you very much indeed for watching. We'll see you again soon, but until then, take care. Bye for now.